So good morning, I'm here in Paternoster Square, which is in the heart of the City of London, and it's right next to St Paul's Cathedral, and this building behind me is the rather unassuming home of the London Stock Exchange Group. This morning it's the location for a seminar on the brand value or the marketing commercial value of marathons. Now, if you live in London like me, particularly in east of London, you'll probably notice that the barricades are going up all over London. It's not because there's a riot going on, there normally is in London, but it's because the London Marathon is coming this weekend. And that's particularly pressing and aware in my house because my wife is running the marathon, so I feel I've been living the dream for the last 3 months while she's been training. So when I got a message from Brand Finance Group yesterday saying we've done some research into the value of marathons, the commercial value of marathon sponsorship, and by the way, reckon it's raised 2.5 billion for the local economy and local community, I thought I've got to come and have a look and hear what they've got to say. So the seminars from Brand Finance, and I've got speakers from Tata, from TCS, Tata Communication Services, talking all about what they've been doing with London Marathon. And let's go inside and find out what they've got to say and what the data shows about the value of marketing in a B2B context.
Which was the TCS Amsterdam Marathon. I think
Here with Hugo Hensley from Brand Finance, who's responsible for producing a really interesting report on the global value of marketing, of marathons in marketing, particularly right now in the build-up towards the London Marathon, which TCS is the main sponsor. It's fascinating data you pulled out of that report. Were you surprised by some of the stuff you found?
I think I was surprised, but once we dug into it, you see the reason why TCS is not just in London, but across the marathon space.
Right.
You know, they're not silly decision makers. They've not rushed into this. This isn't the first year. Obviously, they were seeing it as effective. And one thing about marathons that we measured is that skew towards decision makers.
Yeah.
People are generally more educated in the running and marathon running audiences,
Yeah.
and skew more towards more senior roles in businesses. So
Right.
obviously, as a business development tool, it's incredibly strong. But also the different stakeholders a B2B business needs to interact with, from suppliers to employees. So for a services business, that's obviously one of the top ones.
Yeah.
It gives you a huge number of different touch points to engage.
So TCS is obviously a very strategic global partnership, and there are other global partners involved, there are other global organisations involved around this. Do you think that some of the lessons and some of the opportunities is kind of distillable down to perhaps brands without the kind of financial clout of TCS, and perhaps events that aren't as globally iconic as the London Marathon or even the New York Marathon?
Yeah, so to get that title sponsorship, you've got to be a business of a certain scale for it to be worthwhile. That's a massive awareness driver. But for smaller B2B businesses, what they're going to be looking for is relationships. So can I use this to drive things like discussions, hospitality, if we're looking at different types of event, not quite as relevant in the marathon, but it could be setting up a club if you've got some places to run the marathon with key clients. As I know TCS has done that and says, by the way, if anyone wants to run, or if you're running, let us know and we'll involve you in our race operations. And that's something that can be done by a business of any scale. The other thing is being able to put that to your employees. So TCS mentioned to me earlier that when they have employees coming in for interview, so often they have them mentioning not just, I saw you on the marathon, that was my first introduction, but actually I run marathons. They say they've got a disproportionate number of runners and intense endurance athletes within the organization because of that. So if you think of the different stakeholder groups that B2B organizations liaise with, but also the different balance compared to a B2C business, employees, maybe investors, regulators, as well as a smaller group of key clients, these events really offer you access to that potentially at a smaller scale than a title partnership.
And great for the wider community as well, and general brand building. So great for your brand, your profile. So Hugo, thank you very much indeed for your time. Congratulations on the report again.
Thank you.
Cheers. That's really great. Thank you very
it
much.
was the TCS Amsterdam Marathon. I think.
So I'm here with Abhinav Kumar, who's the global CMO of TCS. That's correct?
That is correct.
Excellent, fantastic.
Privileged to be so, and I'm looking forward to talking with you, Joel.
Well, likewise, thank you. Really fascinating to hear the insights about all the stuff you've been doing. So really long-term commitment you've got to the London Marathon, is that correct?
Well, it is a marathon, so it's important to have a long-term commitment. It is about long-distance running.
I see what you did there.
We've been partnering with marathons for about 15 years, right? We sort of stumbled into the sport. Prior to this, in terms of the portfolio and marketing, which we had invested on sports sponsorships, we used to do many different things. We had an IPL team in cricket. We went to pro cycling. We had a team which participated in the Tour de France. We've been in Formula One with Ferrari, many other things. But when we discovered the sport of running, we literally fell in love with it. I think it's such a phenomenal sport. It does so much good for society. It creates economic impact for the cities which host it. We are today at the Brand Finance event in which they've launched the first ever ranking of the top 50 marathons in the world. I think one of the interesting stats which they've researched is that these top 50 marathons add $5.2 billion of economic surplus to the cities which host them. That's phenomenal, right? But also getting the whole community together. We've been talking all day. There's a lot of happy people behind us having coffee. But we talked about how the day that a marathon takes place in the city is literally the happiest day in the city. The whole city comes out, cheers for people. There's so much funds which are raised for charity and a lot of good which gets done here. We're proud of our association and all of this. Of course, it does wonders for our brand. Our brand value has risen quite significantly over this period of time. Part it's due to a larger effort, but part of it is definitely because of the sponsorship which we do with the marathons. But more than that, it's the community impact which really matters here. Even for our very kind of close community, we now partner with 14 marathons across the world. In all of these across the year, we have 4,000 of our customers and 8,000 of our colleagues which participate in these races, right? It's a phenomenal day for them. For many of our customers, sometimes it's the first marathon they're ever running, or they're going for a record, or they're running in memory of someone they've lost, right? It's a very emotional moment, and it's a pleasure to enable that for them.
And it's really powerful. You just explained beautifully there the resonance of this. Throughout the whole marketing activity you do, you're connecting with them in some great data from Brand Finance about the level of people who are actually doing these marathons. Are very senior people in business decision-making roles. So it's not just about getting a brand in front of people. It's about a deeper level resonance you're creating with the organisation across multiple different touch points and stakeholders.
Correct. I mean, there are many points of value from marathons, both in terms of what we take as a business from it, but also what is created for the society because businesses like us support and grow this platform, right? Definitely, as I said, it's an emotional moment. It's a great moment to kind of engage with the society, but it also does a lot of good for things like wellness in society, right? There is, one of the things, even looking at our own business, right? If you look at the average colleague which we have at TCS, she's a 27-year-old software engineer who comes into work, opens her laptop or workstation, is coding all day, providing services to our clients, doing great things, but it's largely sedentary across the day, right? So we encourage our people to, in the hours they have outside of work, is to find ways in which they stay healthy, right? Whatever they want to do, it's gym, it's cycling, and other things. But because our company has been such a major sponsor for marathons, when they've chosen on what they want to do, many of them naturally feel inspired to start running. So today, if you look at it, of our 600,000 colleagues which we have worldwide, actually a third of them, more than 200,000 of them are active runners.
Fantastic.
They're not all marathon runners. They run 5Ks, they run 10Ks, whatever they want to and whatever they're able to. But because the company has been having this platform, they said, okay, if I'm going to choose something to be fit, why not start running? And it's become part of the DNA in the company and really improved. Look, one of the things which always kind of touches my heart is when our chairman, who's a runner himself, right? So often he goes into these employee engagement events. And like I remember this time it was in a family day in which families of employees were invited to the office, and he was walking around, and there was this group of parents of our colleagues who came in and said, I want to shake your hand and I want to hug you because you've changed the life of my son or my daughter. And he said, what did I do? I don't even know your son or daughter, right? He said, no, because of TCS, they were not very fit. They had heart problems. They had this, that. But because of TCS, they started running and they become a different person, right? That personal transformation. There's so much good in this. I can't stop talking about it.
I think it's clear your passion for this comes through, which is wonderful because there's lots of marketing sponsorship activities we do, and it can be quite a cynical exercise, but you clearly really buy into this as an exercise. Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
Which is, TCS is a global organisation, very strong brand, lots of resources.
running is a very powerful thing, as you suggested.
Yeah.
Do you think there are things that smaller B2B brands, I mean, not even non-global, just large or medium-sized ones, can do to align with running as a sport to perhaps leverage some of these benefits, but perhaps not on such a vast scale?
Sure. Look, I think one of the great things about running also is it's probably one of the most inclusive sports in the planet, right?
Yeah.
Um, if you want to take up running, you don't need much. You don't need to buy a golf kit. You don't need to buy a tennis racket. You don't need to have access to a club.
Yeah.
All you need is a pair of shoes and good weather, and probably not even those two. If you're in London, let's stop talking about the weather, since as we are. And many people are great barefoot runners as well, right?
Yeah.
You don't even need the shoes. So it's a very inclusive sport. It's easy for anyone to access.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the ethos of this sport. In a natural way, it also extends to the ecosystem of this sport.
Yeah.
There are a lot of sponsors which support these running platforms. Some of them were here today.
Yeah.
We had a nice panel with Abbott, with Standard Chartered, Bank
Yeah.
of America, and of course TCS
Uh-huh.
just now. Many of these companies have been supporting this sport for decades. And yes, you do this globally, but see, the one thing about marathons is it's also growing as a sport.
Yep.
There are 800 major marathons in the world today, but the amount of people participating in them has been doubling every 5 or 6 years. So there are new marathons coming up.
Yep.
It's exploding in places like China and much other parts of Asia. So for a company which is a smaller B2B or a B2C or whatever company, you will always find places where you can whatever support you can bring into that race is very welcome by that race, because it's also an underfunded sport.
Yep.
It does not get the big bucks that a football or hockey or any of the big sports tend to get.
Yep.
So I think any support which these organizers get from companies is always welcome. And as you see, it's also an interesting sport in the sense that while it is competitive
Yep.
in nature, both you see a marathon, you see the elite runners, right? And when you see them at the start line, although
Yeah.
they're going to run 2 hours and some minutes, you see them and they're like trying, they're ready to go like they're running a 100-meter
Yeah,
race, right?
yeah.
Very, very serious, very competitive. But that's one part of it.
Yeah.
The larger part of it is it's not competitive.
Yeah.
It's about the community,
Yeah.
right? You stand at the finish line. I have the privilege, thanks to our partnerships here, to stand at the finish lines of many major marathons and to congratulate and greet our clients and colleagues. You stay there for hours, and the happiness you see of each person the moment they step over that line,
Yeah.
right, is they're the winner. They
Yeah.
won the gold medal.
Yeah.
They've achieved something which is phenomenal and very few people on the planet have done. And I think all of this translates into this. The sport needs support. The more companies which come in and provide the resources to it can help it grow and expand further. So they're very welcome. You don't need to be. We have 14 global partnerships all across the world, but as a large business, we have the capability to do so. You can support one event somewhere in the world, and that's fine as a small company, and create positive impact for that city and your communities.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Joel. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
That's really good. So there was a really fascinating event hearing from brand finance about the economic and social value that marathons deliver in these kind of major global locations: London, New York, Sydney, Paris, etc. But more importantly, fascinating to hear from the brands themselves, from Standard Chartered, from Bank of America, and from TCS, around the value they're deriving from it. Not just from a brand perspective, from a visibility perspective, but also at a much deeper level, an emotional level, and the fact that that actually the marathons are participated in by people who are very closely aligned with their target audience, senior decision makers in B2B organizations. So really fascinating, certainly been thought-provoking for me as a runner to understand more about the value of running generally, and marathons particularly, as a marketing vehicle. It does sound also like it's an opportunity for more brands to get involved, albeit not at the kind of stratospheric level of global events like London Marathon, New York Marathon, but on a more kind of local or community-oriented level. So do check out the brand finance report. They put a link in the text below, and hope this has been interesting to you.